you just have to hit that. Okay, cool. So I'm going to kick into the tail theme, and we're good to go. Tell us your tale. Why don't you come up and tell us your tale? Tell us your tale. Why don't you come up and tell us your tale? Why don't you come up and tell us your tale? Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to Tale. Give yourselves a hand for coming out here to your computer for Tale, or the streaming version of Tale, which is Streamy Tale. No hokey gimmicks, no dumb themes, just the best in New York storytelling. But in fact, the theme of Streamy Tale is live streaming storytelling for people who hate live streaming storytelling. There you go. Thank you. So we have someone make sure to turn down the volume on the Twitch channel. Thank you. I am your amiable host, Harmon Leon. We have 6 of the best storytellers in New York and a musician here. We are going to take you on some journeys. You're going to hear some tales. Each individual storyteller is different than the other one. And that's what Tale's all about. So without further ado, we are going to kick things off with some music here at Tale. This man always brings me happiness when he performs, and don't we need happiness in this era? So please, at your home, on your computers, looking at us through your webcams, give this man some warm Tale love for our friend, Jeff Kronberg, everyone.
How's it going? I'm Jeff. I'm going to do some silly songs for y'all. So that's what everyone's needs right now. So this song is, I gotta find a new title for it, but right now it's called Herbal Essences. So here we go. I've got herbal essences here on the right, some head and shoulders by my side. There's some pomegranate body wash that's never been used. And as the water sprinkles down, and I wonder what to choose, I just smile cause I know I've got nothing here to lose. Cause I can do anything I want when I'm using someone else's shower. None of this is mine, so it doesn't really matter to me. There's so many things I've never seen, like extra comfort shaving cream. It makes me laugh cause they'll never know that I use their razor. I'll wash my hairs off later. This bar of soap's got an apple scent. These people must spare no expense. A sticker on this moisturizer says $40. Whoever bought it has gotta be nuts. I know I'm not supposed to rub it on my butt, but that's what I'm gonna do. Cause I can do anything I want when I'm using someone else's shower. The water bill ain't mine, so I'm gonna take an hour. Cause it doesn't really matter to me. I'll keep open the curtain and soak your back mat. I'll lather your lupo with my hairy back. But I won't take advantage of the trust you have in me. And I'll make sure I rinse off the spot where I pee. Oh yeah, it's so nice of me to do that. Cause I can do anything I want when I'm using someone else's shower. I'm the house guest here, so I hold all the power. I'm also gonna use your toothbrush too.
All right, let's hear it. Let's hear it for Jeff Kronberg, everyone. Jeff Kronberg He is the thread that weaves through the Tale Show. Like I said, we can clap. We can clap as a collective group. We can clap. So the thing, not to complain about the live streaming storytelling. It's like what we miss about what we love about live storytelling is kind of the energy of a packed room, staring complete strangers in the eye while we tell and share our stories, like cavemen around a campfire. And so, like on the live stream thing, it's kind of like let's completely remove that from the equation. But we're adapting. We're adapting. We're moving on. And without further ado, like I said, we have 6 of my favorite storytellers, and that is the upside of doing live streaming storytelling. You get to hang with your friends here online. And this is a friend of mine who I met in Edinburgh, Scotland, that I actually did shows with also in San Francisco. So we have 2 coasts on the New York's finest storytelling show here today. So please give her some Wormtail love for Clara
Tell us your tale. Why don't you come up and tell
us your
tale?
All right, let's hear it for Clara, everyone.
You guys hear me? Yeah. Hi everybody, thank you. I'm here. I'm Clara. I'm San Francisco. Currently Berkeley. It's warm. Whatever. Hi New York. All right, I'll get started. I get started with my story. Have you guys ever received a phone call from a guy in the middle of the night who's like, "Hey, I'm your brother"? Right. I have. He was weird. I can tell you that. I was living in New York at the time, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, as you do in New York, and I was coming home, and I used to be a waitress back in New York, and so I come home late one night, 2 o'clock in the morning. I get home, go to bed, and the phone rings, which at the time was not unusual because I was single and I lived in New York, not a phone. And the phone rings, I answer the phone, and I remember specifically I had not had any alcohol that night, which was kind of unusual for me at the time. So I was sober. Get a phone call. This guy's like, "Hey, is this Clara?" I'm like, "Yes, it is." And then he's like, "Is your middle name Dira?" And I'm like, "Yes, it is." And he's like, "Is your dad's name Lee?" I'm like, "Yes, it is." And he goes, "Oh, I'm your brother." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So that was my brother. So I'll give you a little backstory here. I grew up in France with my mother and my sister and my stepdad. I always knew I had a stepdad, and I always knew my dad was Iraqi, but I just didn't know him. The sirens are not mine. So I was living in France. I grew up in France with them, and the story that my parents told me, my mother told me, was that my dad was Iraqi, and he lived with her for about 8 years, her and my sister, which that was true. My grandparents knew my dad, my stepdad knew my dad. Everybody knew him except for me. And anyways, I'm born, and he has to go back to Iraq because his father had died, and he was the oldest person. He was the oldest son, and so he goes back to Iraq to be with his family, and that was supposed to be temporary. But Saddam came to power and shut the borders, and so that was the end of that. So he was not able to get out of the country. He never got out of the country, couldn't get out from him. And he married, he had some kids, and I continued growing up in France as a French person. A lot of songs and baguettes and pets and French stuff. And when I get to be a teenager, I'm like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write. And so I do that. I start writing. And he writes back. And I remember a few letters that I got back from him were like, the paper was so thin. Like, it wasn't toilet paper thin, but it was slightly harder than toilet paper, but it was very, very thin. So for a few months, we went back and forth. It would take forever for like the mail to go from France to Iraq or Iraq back. And I find out that he has 4 sons. So that was not a touch with them because, you know, it might upset some people to see letters from different brands, like there might be some jealousy, or there might be, you know, some excuse to fight or whatever. So we just didn't write to them. And the reason really behind it was like after the Second World War. I remember hearing stories of like people setting scores and saying, "Oh, you know, she slept with a Nazi and let's shave her head," and you know, and so we were just like, "Okay, we're not going to write." And we didn't hear from them, so we just thought, "Oh, they're dead," you know. And what are the odds? There was a war, and that's it. And then the Second Gulf War happened, and I moved to America, and I lived in South Carolina for a while, which was amazing. And then luckily I moved to New York, which was great. Lived in New York for years, and then I got a phone call in the night, and they were all alive, all of them. My dad and his 4 kids, his wife, and I got to meet them recently, and that's it. That's my story. I can tell you a whole lot more. One of the siblings, well, a lot of them live in America now. But the reason why this one called me was because he was stuck in love with Texas, and that's so cool. Yeah. But anyways, I met my Iraqi family and siblings who at some point were living in Texas. And voila.
All right, let's hear for Clara, everyone. Clara here on Tail. Let's hear it. Let's hear it for Clara. And once again, whoa, there were so many weird windows open. There we go. Yes, Clara here at Tail. So like I said, no hokey gimmicks, no dumb themes, just the best in New York storytelling, and also special guests that aren't from New York, as we just saw. So without further ado, are you ready for your next Tailor? I'm going to play him in with the Tail theme. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our friend, Gianmarco Sorici.
Tell us your tale. Why don't you come up and tell us your tale?
Clap it up, storytellers that are unmuted. Clap it up. Hello. Hi. This is nice. You know, I gotta tell you, I always knew I was non-essential, but it really hurts coming from the government. Like, I've been called useless by my dad, but not this state of New York. I know some oils that are more essential than me, and it's because I went to college for musical theater, and I have a doctorate in imagination. And I actually found out that I was straight at musical theater camp. Because at the beginning of musical theater camp, all the guys are like, you know who I wanna fuck? Liza Minnelli. And then we'd learn one jazz routine and be like, no, I wanna be Liza Minnelli. And I was waiting for it to happen to me, but no matter how many of these conversion camps I attended, I still wanted Liza to sit on my face. And I've noticed a lot of people think that, like, if you're straight in theater, you're going to get a lot more action because there's less competition. But women look at straight men in musical theater the same way you look at sushi at 7-Eleven. even if you're in the mood, you don't quite trust it. And you know, I also, we were all in our early teens, so like every Friday night would wind up at a hookah bar, because that's a fun way to get a headache. And after a couple hits of hookah, a couple bottles of wine product, all the women would start making out with all the gay guys. And I remember being like, whose dick do I have to suck to get some pussy? It's out of control. Now, I did get some action though, because on the last night of this camp I did at NYU, it was my 15th birthday. So to celebrate, I had 15 shots of vodka, which is not a sustainable birthday tradition. And I invited everyone back to my dorm room. Only 2 people showed up. It was me, this guy named, the only other straight guy left at camp. His name was Steve. And that's not his actual name, but this story gets a little bit scandalous, so I don't want to reveal his real name until he's like super famous. So it's me It's Straight Guy Steve and Kevin. And Kevin was one of the only campers who had come out before camp had started, because he went to some weird Montessori high school where children were encouraged to be themselves and try cocaine. So it's me, Straight Guy Steve, and Gay Kevin. And we're all like lounging on my bed just discussing the pros and cons of Barbra Streisand's interpretation of Dolly and the movie version of Hello Dolly. When out of nowhere, Straight Guy Steve starts unbuckling my cargo shorts. And I look down. Steve? Straight Guy Steve, what are you doing? And I'll never forget, he said, Jamarco, I'm straight, but I can make you feel amazing. I looked down at him and said, Steve, I am also straight, but go for it. And I could see Gay Kevin in the corner being like, yes! Oh yes! The last two straights at the same time. And so Gay Kevin is jerking off, Steve is blowing me, and it's not his first time, because he has all these different techniques. He has the regular, he has Spider-Man, rolling the snake, step team, and I don't know whether it's because I'm straight or because I had 15 shots of vodka, but nothing's happening down there. You couldn't tell my dick from my belly button because I'm an outie. And without looking up, Steve gets so frustrated, he just scoots over and starts blowing Kevin. It was like an assembly line, and my dick was defective. And I remember the last thought I had before I went unconscious, I was lying on my side, just watching Straight Steve devour Gay Kevin's cock, and I thought, oh my God, I am so lonely. Blackout. I woke up the next morning, my phone's ringing, I can barely move, I'm so hungover, I have 15 shots of vodka. Steve and Kevin are gone, the bed is covered in dry cum, and I pick up the phone, it's my dad, and he has driven to New York from Maryland to pick me up. He's been outside. He said, son, I've been here for hours. Are you ever coming out? And I said, I don't think I ever will. So I have many theater stories. I saw my good friend Sandy Marks, you're going to see later. She really liked that part about the dry cum. So I'm going to move on to this next one. The last theater camp I went to, it was in New York again. It was at this one called, a trigger warning, I guess. Nothing bad happens in this story, but the concept, just, careful. So I went to this, it was Circle in the Square, which is a theater conservatory here. And I was rehearsing a scene for acting class from a play called Middle Ages by A.R. Gurney. And they didn't have rehearsal studios at Circle in the Square. It's very shitty. So we went to Fordham College. And we're rehearsing the scene at Fordham College. And it's me, my scene partner's a woman. Our characters are these childhood friends named Barney and Eleanor. I'm clearly reading. But basically what happens in the scene, I find out that I'm getting shipped to the Vietnam War the next day. So our parents are having this big dinner. I'm like, hey, sneak over here. And I bring her to a drawing room, because this was the 70s. And I've set up all these chocolates and candles and flowers. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to Vietnam tomorrow. Will you have sex with me? Which I can relate to. I once tried to get a woman to sleep with me the night before my birthright trip. I could connect to that circumstance. So she says no. And my character is he's persistent, not aggressive per se, but it's not good. It's not good, even for the 70s. No bueno. And she basically says, if you ask me to have sex with you one more time, I'm going to shout rape. And in the interest of dramatic action, of course, my character asks again, and she shouts, and this is from the play, rape, rape, Barney's going to rape me. And that's when campus security kicked down the fucking door, and the guard says, what the fuck is going on here? Get against the wall, Barney! Get against the wall! And I tried to tell him, I was like, we were rehearsing a scene. We were rehearsing a scene, and her line is she shouts rape, which sounds like a fucking lie. So I turn to her, and I'm like, tell him, which doesn't look any better. Now I'm like yelling at this woman through clenched teeth, like, tell the nice man we were doing a scene. So he's looking like he doesn't believe me at all. So instead, I go and I grab the play, because I have the play right there with me, and I pointed to him. I said, look here, it's in the scene. It says, Eleanor says, help, somebody help. Barney leaps over the couch, grabbing her. Aw, hell. He carries her down stage right. Eleanor shrieking, rape, Barney's going to rape me. But I don't know, have you ever seen someone be so specific that it seems like they're lying even more? That it seems like maybe they carry around a fucking play with the word rape in it just in case they ever get caught by campus security. So now I'm freaking out. I'm pointing to all the props. I'm like, look at this. I have chocolates. I have flowers. I have candles. Like I'm some kind of weird fucking role play rapist. And that he goes to put his hand on the walkie-talkie, and finally, my scene partner goes, yeah, he's right. We're doing a scene, which I know you're not supposed to give line readings to your scene partner, but it sounded like she was fucking lying. So he's smart. He says to her, Miss, may I speak to you outside of the room? He takes her out. They clear it all up. She comes back. Everything's fine. But just to be safe, we decided for the scene to switch roles, because then nobody gave a shit. And that's my two theater stories. Thank you for listening.
All right, let's hear for Gianmarco, everyone. Gianmarco. Here at the Tail Show. Yay, we're back. And also, Moma's here. Yay. All right, Moma. I know you had some trouble downloading Zoom, but would you be ready to be our next storyteller?
I am. I'm always ready.
All right, I am going to play you in with the Tail theme, but ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Moma, everyone.
Tell us your tale. Why don't you come up and tell us your tale?
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it for Moma, everyone. Let's hear it for Moma.
What's going on? I'm a big fan of Gianmarco. I just want to say peace to my guy. He's a genius. I love Gianmarco. I'm a huge fan. I guess the story I wanted to tell tonight was about the first time that I'm wearing my grandpa's shirt too. I was wearing the shirt when it happened. I want to talk about the first time that I had ever experienced police brutality. What I noticed is just that a lot of people are just coming out in the world right now and expressing an event that was not caught on tape, but in and of itself, it was it explained what we were going through right now. Right? So I just remember being 28 years old. I'm about to turn 33 pretty soon, and I moved from Brooklyn to New Jersey with my cousin. My cousin's name is Martin. He's mad African. He has PTSD. He was a military vet. The only time I saw his PTSD come out was every time that he would steal my ice cream in the middle of the night. Whatever, that's his steez. I get it. I never had Iraqis shoot at me, but I also didn't wake up in the middle of the night desperate for ice cream. Fair. Anyway, me and Martin lives in Jackson, New Jersey. If you don't know anything about Jackson, New Jersey, but it is where Six Flags is. It's like very white. It's the perfect place to be if you're a white person. He runs his own business, so he deals with a lot of different people. His clientele have a lot more money than I've ever seen in my life. They can get a boat loan. I can't. True. But you know, he like mows their lawns and shit. So he's very comfortable with a specific type of white person that I, as a former drug dealer, current drug dealer, has never had to really experience, right? He invites me out to like Sea Isle City, like some place on the shore. He promises me that there's gonna be hella white girls. He used the word hella, so I could believe him. I don't know what that was about, but cool, I'm there. We go to Seattle City, and we're in this club. I should have known something was fucked up because I paid to get into the club. I usually just sneak in, whatever. But you know, this is Tail. I'm just to tell you the truth. Paid like $20 to wait an hour to get into this place. It's like 10 o'clock at night. We walk in Seattle City. It's nothing but white people everywhere. Everybody's dancing off beat. Everybody is like just making you feel like you shouldn't be there as a black person. You know, they know I'm gonna fuck the white girls. That's the only reason why I'm there. I wasn't showing up there to listen to Taylor Swift, but it's whatever. That's what happens. Me and Martin enter into the club. We start mixing around. We notice that there's like a lot of security there for a club that's not that popping. Like, who's gonna be walking in trying to like start some shit type of a club? Anyway, as the night progresses, me and him are trying to play our game. I used to have this pickup line. I'd go up to a woman, I'd say, yo, what's your favorite type of cheese? I bet you it's brie, because it looks like you go down easy with a glass of red wine. Very funny. Didn't work ever. I'm lonely. I would chase after them, do what I got to do. But I ended up, you know, finally dancing with the girl. Me and this girl, we're dancing. I'm trying to buy her drinks. I'm trying to fuck. We got a car in the parking lot. It's about to be lit. But she's not about it. But I know I gotta try. The way that I gotta try to get this bitch to fuck with me is that I gotta dance harder. I gotta show her, like, it's like birds of paradise. You gotta dance harder to make your mate see you for what you are. So at least that's what I was thinking, right? I end up on the dance floor. Me and her, we're shaking it. I see Martin from the other side of the room. This nigga's locking eyes with me, like, you about to fuck that white girl? I'm about to fuck this white girl. His was fat, whatever. It's all right. We're in Seattle City. Nobody's judging. Next thing I know, like, my shoulder is being pulled, like, aggressively, like, you gotta get the fuck out of here. All I've been doing is dancing, all right? So my dance move is like, it is like very like, if you've ever seen a drop ship company, like somebody that takes freight and drops it somewhere, that's how I dance. Like, I work very two-dimensionally. Like, I'm just like working on these axes. Anyway, somebody pulls me from this axis, and I'm like very confused. Like, what the fuck is going on? This nigga grabs me by my shoulder. He's like, yo, you gotta get the fuck out of here. Martin is seeing me from that other side of the room, and he's like, yo, I gotta get in. White pussy's not stronger than a bond, the nigga ship, all right? So this nigga just comes over here. He just, like, tries to tap me on the shoulder. He's like, yo, what's going on? Why you stopping my man? He's like, oh, yeah, both of y'all gotta leave the club. So this security guard kicks us out. We go out front. I'm like, yo, you kicking me out? I just bought a drink. I just bought this bitch a drink. I could have drank her drink. Like, what the fuck is going on right now? I'm upset. He's just like, yo, you have been harassing white women all night. He used the word harassing. Very interesting word in a dance club, and I'm just dancing. This nigga's like, yo, you're harassing women all night. Not he said harassing women, but I knew he meant white women because I was trying to score. So this nigga's like, yo, you gotta get out of here. We go outside. We're now trying to talk to this dude. I'm like, yo, I bought this drink, yada yada. Martin, being a vet, thinks that he can talk to this police officer like we're on the same level. And he's like, yo, Momo, I got this. Okay, all right, I mow this one. And he's like, all right, so check it out. Listen, Momo was just dancing with some girls. This is my white voice. If I wasn't sorry to bother you, this is how I would have been employed them up. This is how you approached my friend. And if you didn't know that that wasn't right, this is what you have to do. If y'all don't know, this is called code switching. This is what we do when we are in front of a white menace and we think that the way to get out of it is by being well spoken. I've read so much Tolstoy, so much Dostoevsky, it doesn't fucking matter. Anyway, this nigga saw me as a nigga, so I'm just that nigga pressed up against the wall. Martin tries to sweet talk him. He puts us both against the wall, and another cop, security guard, undercover, whatever, shows up, and now we got nightsticks against our throat, and we can't even talk. So this nigga can't get his white voice out, and I'm like, all right, I gotta speak up for us. And I'm like, yo, what is this about? It's like, yo, I saw you harassing white women, yeah. And then he points to his partner. It's like, yeah, I saw him harassing people too. So I'm like, what is harassing? Like, what are you talking about? basically trying to smash, just trying to be out there, exist. You know, cuck porn could have been a part of it. I don't know, but I've seen enough to beat off to it to know that this is a hot situation. Dude has got his nightstick, gets I can't even talk. I'm like, yo, give me your ID. I'm not trying to die that night. So I give this nigga my ID. Martin gives him his ID. He's like, Martin, okay. And he sees my name. My name is Momo Pujay. My name is spelled Momoh. My name is Mama. It means warrior in Mende. It is an African language. This nigga says, homo, you gay. homo, you. And I'm like, bruh, like, this is material now? Like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, I started comedy like 8 years ago. So this nigga's like, I'm like, oh, is this gonna be my opener? And I'm like, homo, you gay. I'm like, fuck you, faggot. I wasn't that good as a comic back then, and I was mad, and I thought that I was shit like that. It turns out, so you can't see it, but I got a scar like right here. Bro threw me on the ground and busted my shit open. I looked like Mankind in a Hell in a Cell match with the Undertaker. It was like coming out. I was bleeding. And that's the reason why, if you think wrestling is fake and you don't think that police brutality is real, it's odd that they both hit in the same area. But like, I had blood coming out of my eye, and it was the first time that something like that had happened to me, and I didn't know how to really react, and I was just thinking to myself, don't die. So we end up back at the police station. Blood is on my shirt at this point. The grandpa would have just been fucked up. Go back, my niggas got me handcuffed as tight as he can to a bench, and I'm just like, bruh, like, what is this about? He runs my history. I used to live in Jersey City, and I would jump the transit train just so I could get to work when I used to work at Amazon. And I had a warrant out apparently for my arrest, like I was some sort of a deviant, right? So this nigga is trying to justify the violence in which he inflicted upon me. I'm bleeding, like I hurt. And I don't know if you've ever touched sidewalk with your feet, but imagine it with your face. It's different. This nigga's trying to tell me like I fucked up and I did something wrong and I'm about to be like arrested for like some real shit. And I have a warrant out. And I'm like, warrant? Nigga, what? I jumped the train a couple times. I didn't pay my ticket because why would I pay the ticket? Etc. Anyway, long story short, I start thinking that material is gonna get me out of this situation. It doesn't. Blood is on me. I'm like, I'm fucked up right now. Somebody gonna do something. Like, nobody responds to me. Nobody just comes over to me even to see if I'm all right. There's only one other dude that's in the jail cell. I'm gonna call this nigga the Undertaker because he looked like him. He just had long drawn hair. And this Undertaker ass nigga was like, that's how they do us. It's a white man telling me this is how they do us, me and him. That's how they do niggas. Like, what are niggas? Niggas is felons. And this nigga starts talking to me about like the 13th Amendment. He starts talking to me about how felons replaced what is a slave. And I start learning shit that night that right now you could learn in the documentary 13th. This is a white man who's telling me that, nah, nigga, I'm a nigga and you a nigga too, nigga. He ain't say it that much because he had respect. Cool. I understood where I was in that moment. After the fact, just that night, Martin and his cutting the grass ass job got me out, cost me $1,000 to get out of jail that night, or else I would have been in there until I found $1,000. Could have robbed somebody. It's all cool. Gianmarco's got money, I know. Right now, I'll just tell you. So I did my taxes this past year, and I needed the money. Like, I was in some like refund. I need this money, and they took out of my check from that moment. All right. So it's like, it's not like police brutality and these moments exist only on a moment of film, but it's like, it's real. You exist in these existences perpetually until it's satisfied. Unfortunately, a lot of the perpetuance is a black person being murdered. I know I was on a show with Harmon recently, and I tried to tell this joke about how police are this utility tool, like a Boy Scout knife or type shit, whatever it's called, utility. And what ends up happening is like when you have this utility tool that is seen as an operation of white supremacy, it can't be a screwdriver. It's only gonna always just maintain white supremacy. Now, obviously, I want to be cool as shit and say that my moment is white supremacy to explain what it is. And do I know that it is? These niggas made fun of my name and used that as a pretense to break my face and then lock me up and cost me a G. So, like, I don't really know that much about what is defund the police. Perhaps this moment could have been de-escalated in some way. These niggas is assholes. I've heard all cops are bastards. Bastard means you don't have a parent. Your parent who owns you, who birthed you. The only thing that could have birthed you is a state that wanted you to oppress. If you are the overseer and that becomes the officer, that's what your position is. So, you know, I could have made fun of mad people's names. Harmon's name is Harmon. That's like eHarmony. Fuck that name. I don't know. Or whatever. The fact that we denigrate each other to the point that we can abuse one another is an issue. Just to wrap my story up, I feel like a lot of that situation and a lot of different situations that we're exploring right now are about domination. A person wanted to put me in my place. My place is featuring for Gianmarco. Yo, nigga, get famous so I can. But like on some real shit, it's like, yo, like who are we? Like what am I? If I'm not a human being that can exist and express to you the deepest thoughts that exist in here, and you don't even see them, you just see me as an animal trying to fuck white women, we're never gonna progress. But that's where we are in a lot of different things. Just to let you know, more white women want to fuck me than I want to fuck them back. And that's just how, you know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Deny pussy? Nigga, you wouldn't deny pussy either, nigga. I thought that we understood each other. 13th, that should be the hashtag. I don't know how much time I have left or how much I ran the light. I apologize, but thank you, Harmon, for having me on. Shout out to all the comics I see on here. Sandy, I see you here. You're a beautiful woman. I love everything that you do. I follow you a lot closer than you think. I'm behind you actually right now. Gianmarco, I love you. I see some other faces. I know your material. I don't know your name, but you guys are great. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Elise. I told you I'd say what's up. Peace.
All right, let's hear from Momo, everyone. Let's hear from Momo here at Tail. Let's hear it here. Well, there we go. There I am. All right, there we go. Let's hear it once again, Momo. And like I said, we have 6 of the best storytellers in New York and a musician. And once again, before we go on to our final storytellers of the evening, let's welcome back our friend Jeff Kornberg, everyone.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Yeah, there's some great stories. Excited to see the final ones. I'm going to do a little song for you guys about love and loss. Here we go. I miss the way you laugh, the way you comb your hair. I miss waking up next to you every morning. I miss your goofy jokes, your soft and silky skin. I miss how you had HBO and Showtime. I miss your pretty eyes, they shone like Blu-ray discs. Which reminds me, girl, I also miss your Blu-ray discs. You knew just how to hook up the HDMI cables. I miss your basic cable. No, I don't think you understand how much you mean to me. Girl, I miss everything about you, especially your TV. I miss all of your friends, like Chandler, Phoebe, and Ross. Hey, maybe you could tell me what they're up to. Won't you please come back? I said I was sorry. I said it during cops. Didn't you hear me? You are my number one. I'll never leave your side. Hold on, I'll be right back. I think that Entourage is on. You had just one remote for both your speakers and everything about you, especially your TV. Whoa, I just got off the phone with Best Buy. They sent your TVs out of stock, and they don't know when they're getting more in. No, I don't think you understand how much you mean to me. Girl, I miss everything about you, especially your TV.
All right, let's hear for Jeff, everyone. Let's hear for Jeff here at the Tail Show. And now we are down to our final 3 storytellers of the evening. 2 of them are my favorite. One of them happens to be me. So please, without further ado, let's welcome our next Taylor coming to the Tail stage. I'm going to play her in with the Tail theme song. Let's hear it for Sandy Marks.
Tell us, oh, tell. Why don't you come up and tell us your tale?
Yay!
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes!
God, I look ridiculous. I look like one of those old MTV VJs who got really. I look like Mark Goodman. Oh my God. All right. Hi, everybody. All right. So I know everyone else here is suffering the same high anxiety that I'm suffering. And for the obvious reasons, we are in the upside down world. But for me, I have a little extra layer of icing because in January, I had the exciting moment of being hit by a car. An Uber driver ran me over in Brooklyn while I was just minding my own sweet business. And I mean, I'm here, so I didn't die, but I badly broke my foot in 3 places, and I got cut up and bruised, and it was fucking traumatic. And I've been indoors since the middle of January, sort of like Rapunzel screaming in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, because I could do nothing. And I was so tense, and I've been so anxious that, for instance, when my husband Keith would come home from wherever he was, and believe me, he would text saying I'm on my way home, but when the door opens, I would jump and scream as if like I don't know, Charles Manson and his posse were coming in, with Beatles music behind them to kill me, because I've been just so freaking fucked up. I mean, PTSD is a real thing, and I'm very twitchy. But to be honest, I've been twitchy since I'm a kid because I blame it on my neurotic Jewish mother, who was insane and made me fearful of everything. Like, for instance, she told me that I couldn't swim, which I didn't till high school, because if I ate something before I went in the pool, I'd get the bends, which I didn't know what the bends were, and I don't think she did either, because it was a gallon of water. So, and then I couldn't run on the pavement in front of our building in Queens, because if I did, I would crack my head open, and I always had this image of like Humpty Dumpty, like a head that was literally cracked open. So everything fucked me up, and the scariest of them all were birds. I was terrified of birds, and not only because I did see the movie when I was a kid, which was inappropriate at best, but because my mother told me that she had a friend who knew someone who had a friend who had a cousin or some shit like that, whose daughter had a bird shit on her head, which doesn't seem horrible, except the kid died because of, my mother said, toxins. So everything in my family was scary. I mean, if we had like a family crest, but we were like poor Jews in Queens, it would say, brace yourself, okay? Because everything was terrifying in our house. So I grew up like that, and I mean, I was the one at summer camp who was like weaving and bobbing and serpentining away from any birds because I was afraid that toxins, I was gonna die. So I decided when I became a grown-up and I had my own kids that I was not gonna fuck them up, and I wasn't gonna let them be terrified the way I am about everything, which I still am. But I decided, no, they were going to be normal. So I exposed them to stuff like water and animals and fauna and flora because, you know, you gotta live in the real world. And I didn't want them to be that asshole at camp, leaving and bobbing away from the other kids and not having any friends and not swimming. So they did everything, my kids. They skied and we went whitewater rafting. We did all the things that you want to do to make your kids like healthy and hale and hearty. You know, I want to do that. So I also decided that I would live in the world of yes. So if they asked for something, I would try to make it happen if it's reasonable. And one of the things they love to do is go to this store called Birds of Paradise, which was in Westchester in a strip mall, and it's sold exclusively exotic birds. They also had like snakes, and then they had the mice that they fed the snakes and all that shit. But it was all about the birds, and they were like cockatiels and parrots and those big like Fruit Loops birds and shit, you know, like, and they had them all on one of those thin wooden poles, but they weren't in cages. So when you went into the store, they were just all out there, kind of like preening, like Mick Jaggering, and they were all, and they had their little claws out. And I was terrified, but I didn't want my kids to know. So we'd go in there. It was sort of like a bird museum. And every time I go in there, to me, it was like Sweet Charity, and they were going to sing Hey Big Spender, because they were all like out there, like, you know, ready to do something. And I was so afraid because birds are unwieldy. They can take off. They can go places. They don't have to stay still, which is why I'm still afraid of the ocean, because it moves. It's not stationary. But my kids were entranced, and they wanted one of those birds. And I said, you're not getting one of those birds. I said, no birds. I had like this thing about a bird coming home and the toxins. It wasn't going to happen. So anyway, we started to get, you know, along in a way where they were healthy. I even got them a dog. I wasn't worried about rabies. I mean, we did all the things that you do to make healthy kids. And I still kept all my neuroses to myself. So one day, all my kids are all in school. I decided to go for a drive because I live in Westchester. And I'm going on errands, and I'm visiting a friend in Greenwich, Connecticut, which is real kind of fancy. And I like driving around there because I was aspirational. I wanted to see what big houses would be like. And we go driving around. So I'm alone, and I'm driving, and I'm listening to one of my favorite podcasts, which I think was My Favorite Murder. I don't know if you guys know it, but it's a great podcast. And I'm listening to that, and I'm just kind of driving around. And as I'm driving a little too fast, that's for sure. And I see as I'm driving this whole family of geese. And they're just kind of waddling into the middle of this road. Now, there's a contract. You're not supposed to be in the middle of the road. That's where the cars go. They're supposed to stay on their island, on their lane, but they didn't. They all were, there was a huge family. They looked like Amish people going to like a fruit stand. Like they were just on their way, busy, doing something. And I was really frightened that I was going to hit them because they were pretty close and I didn't have enough warning. So I put my foot on the brake and I swerved and I managed to not hit them, and I just see one of those like poof, like those feathers, like Forrest Gump feather, like flying behind in my rearview mirror, and I'm like, oh fucking thank God I did not hit these geese. It's okay, the contract has been kept, nobody's dead. So I kept going about my business, and I went to, you know, through Greenwich, and then I went back to Westchester, and I started doing my errands. I went to the dry cleaners and the grocery store, and I bought all the food for the week. And I'm really in my own personal wellness. I'm feeling fine. And then I finally make the last stop, which is at the Chase Bank. And it's in one of those parking lots, which is a mall in Eastchester. And it has like a Lord & Taylor there and a Gap and all those stores. And I pull up and I pull into the parking lot. And I don't know what possesses me because I obviously hadn't looked before. But this time I walk to the front of the car and I look and I almost lose my mind because in the front of the car on the grill is a goose, a huge goose with a wingspan like out to here. It looks like a Viking parade float, and it's a dead huge fucking goose in my car, half in, half out of the grill, and I'm freaking the fuck out because I'm thinking, holy shit, there is an animal in my car, and I'm so afraid of this animal, dead or alive. And why hasn't anyone on the road? I just drove about 5 miles, and no one has honked or waved and said, you've got something hanging up. It's like toilet paper on your shoe when you go to the, you know, when you're in a restaurant. You want somebody to tell you there's toilet paper on your shoe. Nobody's telling me there's a goose hanging out of the front of my car. It's a parade float, an Angry Birds parade float. So I do the only thing that a crazy woman would do who has issues. I drop my car keys on the ground, the car door's still open, and I just run away. I just leave the scene of the crime. I don't know what to do. I just run. I pass the Gap. I pass Lord & Taylor. I'm just running because I don't know what the fuck to do. And I'm trying to calm myself down. And finally, I think it was probably the point where I got to Banana Republic where I realized there was ice cream in the back seat, and I couldn't just abandon my dairy products because it was summer and it was going to be a mess. So the mother in me, you know, the responsible human, decided I better figure this out. So I pick up my phone and I call the service area for the Audi dealership. They have like a service center, and I say, this is an emergency. I need to get there immediately. There is a large bird stuck to my car, and I'm going to lose my mind. I don't know what to do. I'm afraid it's like hatching eggs. I don't know I don't even know if it hatch eggs. I don't know, but I'm losing my. So they're very sweet. They're very kind. They go, just bring the car in. So I have to get back to the car, and I'm going to look. I'm terrified. And still nobody's noticing that there's a bird hanging out of my car. I pick up the car keys. I get in. Ice cream hasn't melted yet. I drive to the locals in Tuckahoe, the Audi station. I go careening into one of those like work bays where they have all the service dudes. And I run out and I throw the keys at this guy. And I say, car, animal, grill, help. And he's like starting to laugh because apparently this happens. And I look and stitched on one of those like jumpsuits he's wearing is his name. And his name is Jesus, which at that moment to me was just purely Jesus. It's like, holy shit. And he says, don't worry, I've got this. Go inside, have a cup of coffee, which I didn't need because you can tell I don't need coffee. He says, go inside, I'm going to deal with the bird. I will fix it. And I said, you have to promise me you will take care of this because I got this. Don't worry, go inside. And I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. He's taking the wheel. Okay, thank God. So I go inside. It takes like 40 minutes. And I'm imagining like hacksaws and hosing and I don't know what the fuck he has to do, but power washing. I mean, it's a huge bird. And about 40 minutes later, he says, okay, it's done. And I make him promise me he really took care of it. It's done. I promise you, everything's fine. I come back out, there's no bird, it's gone. It's like, oh, thank God. I hug Jesus. I thank you so much. Thank you. He says, no problem, no big deal. They didn't even charge me. It was free to get the bird out. I thought maybe he was taking it home for dinner. I don't know. So then I leave, I go home, and then I start thinking, shit, this bird had a family. And now one of the family members I have killed, and they're going to hunt me down, as they should. Because I feel terrible. This is horrible. How could I do such a thing? Somehow I just forget about it. But I know somehow this is going to bite me in the ass. And I am a firm believer in karma. I don't know about you guys, but I really do believe in karma. So here I am. It's like years later. And I am now still, this is January, I had my car accident. It's now June. It was a pretty bad accident. My foot is still kind of healing. It's still kind of broken. And I walk around like a fucking duck. I'm waddling out in the streets because I can barely walk. And I'm thinking, yeah, there is karma. This is like a Grimm's fairy tale. Finally, they got back. They hit me with a car so I can walk like the geese. And this is my story because you got to pay the price. You can't do something and go unscathed. At some point, you have got to pay the piper. And it took a while, but I did, and now I feel like it's an even playing field. The contract is back. Please stay away from my car. I will stay away from you. And I hopefully will one day be able to go back outside and not get hit by any more moving vehicles. Thank you. That's my story.
All right, let's hear for Sandy here. The Tale, everyone. Let's hear it for the Tale. So we're down to our final two tailors of the evening. This is particularly where the being on Twitch will come into play. So just saying that for the performers. We please welcome to a stage the man. He puts on live storytelling shows, and then COVID-19 happens and they go online. Please welcome Harmon Leon, everyone. Let's
Tell us your tale. Why don't you come up and tell
us your
tale?
All right, thank you very much. So it's an election year. Because it's an election year, I think we tend to let the Trump's reaction to the coronavirus and the protests on police brutality overshadow all the other horrific, terrible, vile things he's done over the years, most particularly locking children in cages. So with that in mind, my grandparents were immigrants. They came over from the old country to America. Here, let me recreate the scenario. Yikes, Nazis, let's get out of here. And America said, hi, I'm America. Come over here, my goo guys. Let me give you a hug. Come on in. You're welcome here because that's what I'm all about. Because I'm America, your friend. And that's what I'm thinking about as I'm wearing matching camouflage army fatigues and driving to the last dusty outpost before the Mexican border to stand amongst concerned American citizens who feel the U.S. government's just not doing their
We're
job.
about to go meet the men and women behind the Minutemen.
Yes, the Minutemen, an armed vigilante group who have taken upon themselves to track down illegal aliens like angry villagers chasing Frankenstein's monster right here in the very spot where Donald J. Trump, and by the way, does that stand for Jizzbrain, wants to build his magnificent wall. We are not Nazis. We are not the KKK. We are not white supremacists, says a large, intimidating man with a gun strapped across his chest who goes by the name Papa Bear, as if forced to recite some sort of legal disclaimer. Still, doing a quick visual inventory, I gotta say, it is pretty fucking white here. Mainly elderly white dudes with big pot bellies, some who have brought their scary wives. To further instigate xenophobic paranoia, Papa Bear claims that Minutemen have actually bought copies of the Quran and Arabic flight schedules to the cleanup area by the border, implying that not only are terrorists also trying to sneak into our country, but they're so absent-minded they keep dropping and losing copies of their holy book. The Quran. To further instigate xenophobic paranoia, Papa Bear claims that Minutemen have actually... Papa Bear wraps up the morning briefing by saying, I'm going to look everyone directly in the eye, and I'm going to ask you two questions. Do you agree to uphold the rules of the Constitution and secure our borders from the threat of invasion? Okay, hate to break news of Papa Bear, that's actually just one question, two sentences put together with a conjunction. But when it comes to my turn, and Papa Bear's looking me directly in the eye, I respond by reading off the guy in front of me's t-shirt and saying, what part of illegal don't they understand? Okay, it's now time to patrol the Mexican border with these true American heroes.
On night shift, the motto out here is like that, it's sleep. We don't need no stinking sleep.
Now, patrolling the Mexican border in the middle of the night is not unlike sitting in one's car, drinking tons of coffee, and being extremely bored. I'm shaky, I'm tired, I'm jittery. I look off into the big, vast, dark void along the desert, and I'm pretty positive I am seeing things that aren't really there. So it's a darn good thing I'm not packing a pistol like the Minuteman who just freaked out over his walkie-talkie and asked, can we return fire if fired upon? At 3:37, we finally get some action. A Minuteman who goes by the name Wisconsin gets on his walkie-talkie and says, I'm going to change my coordinates to Foxtrot Charlie, so if you see some lights, try not to get too trigger happy. Okay, I get this. These are just a bunch of old dudes with way too much free time on their hands wanting to play pretend army. So I get on my walkie-talkie and pretend like I'm having a Vietnam flashback.
I'm freaking out, man! I'm really freaking out here!
Dead silence on the other end. In the heat of the drama, I accidentally flashed my car lights, which Wisconsin interprets as some sort of rendezvous border meetup signal. He gets on his walkie-talkie and screams, Code Red! We need security backup! Code Red! Already, this has turned into a big three-ring anti-immigration circus as I wrap up my time on the night shift by having a few more Vietnam flashbacks.
Call the airstrike! Man down! Man down!
The Minuteman fighting closing barbecue is wrapped up with a lot of patriotic flag waving and God blessing of America, which is kicked off by a local pastor blessing all this illegal alien hunting in the name of who? Why, of course, Jesus. Because, as we all know, the only thing that lovable Jesus would want is secure borders. That's followed by a lot of patriotic, inspiring speeches where the Minutemen pat each other on the back for being such brave American heroes.
Those who do not respect our borders shall be repelled by force if it is necessary.
Nailed it, says Minuteman Ron to a slow, Dead Poet Society building of applause. Now, as the patriotic adrenaline starts pumping, now comes the part where things turn ugly. A Minuteman from San Diego directs everyone's attention to a group of local reporters and points out the other true enemy of America, the liberal fake news.
And it's the media that's the other half of the problem in this country for not covering the story the way it really is. So why don't you folks pack up and go south of the border where you want to be controlled?
Okay, first of all, what the hell does that mean? Second of all, though, it makes the Minutemen start throwing out angry taunts of traitors and sorry excuse for Americans and bye-bye media. What part of illegal don't they understand? I yell, trying to fit in, just as a large steely-eyed man with a Bowie knife starts looking down my back while I jot down notes, purposely eyeballing me, intentionally trying to intimidate. So there's really only one thing left for me to do. I pack up and go south of the border where I want to be controlled, to Mexico, where little kids joyfully hit Minutemen effigies in town squares. Because I could feel the fear, I could feel the anger, I could feel the hatred, I could feel the intimidation, I could feel the bullying. And I'm just glad my grandparents weren't escaping Nazis during this era, so they wouldn't have to be turned away at the border by some bloated orange fuck pants leading an asinine chant of, build that wall, build that wall, build that wall. The end. All right, thank you, thank you. Oh, did we? Oh, there we are. Oh, hey, okay, thank you very much, thanks. Wow, gets kind of scary there in the alone telling a story void. So, without further ado, we are going to bring up our last storyteller of the evening. Please give her some warm tail love. We're going to play her on with the video, with the song. Let's welcome Rhonda Hansen, everyone.
Tell us your tale. Why don't you come up and tell us your tale?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Oh, that's great. I'm just asking because I'm in the Bronx. Yeah. the Bronx has Yankee Stadium, a world-class botanical garden, and an award-winning zoo. I live in the Bronx, and I hate it. I grew up in the borough of Churches, Brooklyn, the county of kings. Anyone here remember Paul Newman's steel blue eyes policing the menacing streets of Fort Apache, the Bronx? Or Melanie Griffith's baby woman voice in Bonfire of the Vanities? These two films painted a messy portrait of the Bronx for me and convinced me that I like my grimy New York, Brooklyn style. It's not that I preferred a higher drug-fueled body count. Brooklyn wasn't less violent. I just loved the county of my birth. That's a lie. That's a lie. There was so much violence and drugs, and burned out buildings when I was growing up that I wanted to leave as soon as I could, and I did. And I left with my high school sweetheart, Phil, and we moved to a 5-flight walk-up in Spanish Harlem, where the Young Lords, for you who may not know, the Latin version of the Black Panthers, the Young Lords collected our rent, and junkies would pause mid-fix to let us go by. We were an interracial Romeo and Juliet looking for our Camelot. When we said goodbye to Spanish Harlem, Brooklyn welcomed us back, and we actually lived rent-free in a Lutheran church in Flatbush. We were the caretakers, and from there, we moved to my first elevator building, on Linden Boulevard. But Flatbush began to feel a little bit provincial. We found cosmopolitan cachet in an isolated corner of Lower Manhattan. From our apartment off the West Side Highway, it was just a short walk to Little Italy, Chinatown, the Village, Soho. But in pre-GPS times, even taxis didn't know the way to our apartment house off the Hudson River. There were no coffee shops, no banks, not even traffic lights south of Canal Street. And this made moving to Independence Plaza, this big project there, a real romantic pioneer experience. We settled down and we had a son, Seth. And in the years that followed, I was shocked, I tell you, to find out that I was living in the center of the celebrity universe. When Robert De Niro christened my neighborhood Tribeca! Yes. So now we had coffee shops, but just to buy a cup, I had to push my way through celebrities like Naomi Campbell, John Kennedy, and Nathan Lane. And this is just in August when nobody, who's anybody, is in New York. Well, our gorgeous son grew up playing in the World Trade Center, and he had the loving support of his parents when he graduated Dartmouth and then spent several years teaching English in Japan. But when Seth returned to New York, it was to a broken family. Our family had made it through 9/11, but not through our marital strife. When Phil and I divorced, he asked me to move out. And by chance, I found an inexpensive apartment in a neglected brownstone in Bedford-Stuyvesant. I was so depressed. The only time I ever laughed was when a visitor, well, actually every visitor said, "You should rent out your closet. You could get $800 a month for that." And I'd laugh and say, who the hell would want to live in a closet on Macon Street off Malcolm X? Well, the joke was on me because everybody, absolutely everybody would pay to live in a closet on Macon Street off Malcolm X, and they'd pay big. I was alone for the very first time in my life. I had no husband, no work, and no health insurance. My only comfort was knowing that being back in the hood reminded me of my childhood days with things like red light, green light, 1, 2, 3, or jumping double dutch with a girl who was always double-handed. My life was literally in tatters. I felt adrift, and I was so distracted, I didn't notice that the center of the celebrity universe was following me. My first clue should have been that one whiter than white family across the street. Then I missed a huge red flag on the A train. Now, usually on the A train, my fellow travelers after Borough Hall are melanin gifted. And this particular night, I got off the train at my station, Utica Avenue, and I looked back and I wondered, where are all the white people who are still on the train going? Are they going someplace for Scientology? Well, I finally got the message when the city repaved Nostrand Avenue and put up benches at well-lit bus stops. I saw white people walking at midnight with their heads in their iPhones, not even looking up in their gentrified world. Blondes and redheads jogging in their little shorts, walking their little dogs, and that was just the men. House after house was sold and bought as my neighborhood changed complexion. And a broker actually said to me, "Why don't you buy the empty brownstone you live in? It doesn't matter that you're unemployed. Your mortgage won't balloon for 3 months. Your mortgage won't balloon for 3 months. It doesn't matter that you're unemployed." Oh God. When the brown-skinned sister who wrote for the New York Post bought my house, I thought, I got this. Little did I know, I had dodged a subprime mortgage bullet only to be hit with a rent increase cannonball. My sister landlady informed me that I could stay 1 more year at double the rent. Double the rent. My random extra work on TV and movies gave me a budget of $1,000 for my rent. And there were trust fund kids from I don't know where who were happy to pay 3 times my reasonable rent. So I had to leave in 3 months. I tweeted daily, "Mayor de Blasio's affordable housing is a joke." Hashtag de Blasio sucks. All I needed was a nice 1-bedroom apartment for $1,000. After 9 months of looking, and a complete emotional meltdown, I bought a 1-bedroom co-op in Fort Apache, the Bronx. You hear me? I bought an apartment in the South Bronx because I did not make enough money to qualify for affordable housing. Did I mention that the housing lottery is a joke? Hashtag, say it with me, de Blasio sucks.
De Blasio
Blasio sucks.
Thank you. I live in an area in the Bronx called Soundview. There are lots of sounds. There are screams, there are sirens, there are gunshots. Not much of a view unless you count the chalk outline of bodies on the ground. My first week here, just around the corner, there was a murder. But after 5 years, I've gotten used to the emergency vehicles coming for the monthly shootings. When people hear I live in the South Bronx, they're all concerned about my safety. I'm from the real Bed-Stuy, okay? Not these latte streets and made up from artisanal beers pouring down the street. I'm not worried because usually people who are shot and killed are harmed by people they know, trust, and love. But I do have to admit, at this age, it's pretty hard for me to get used to my new neighborhood and trying to make new friends, especially when I no hablo español. When I say I have no shops that I like, not my bank isn't even close by, I feel petty. But I also feel sad that I bought an apartment in Fort Apache, the Bronx. Speaking of movies, right down my street, just off Bruckner Highway, York Studios has built a $100 million TV and movie production house right down the street here. So I guess I'll get new headshots and I'll update my resume and see if I can take the president of York Studio to find the best roast pork and rice and beans. I don't think the Bronx is burning anymore, but the heat that I feel is the center of the celebrity universe breathing down my neck. And that's no lie. I'm Rhonda Handsome. Thank you.
All right, let's hear for Rhonda, everyone. And let's hear for everyone that was on today's tale. Let's hear for Clara. She had to jump out early to take her kids somewhere. Let's hear for Moma. Let's hear for Gianmarco. He just also had to bail out. Let's hear for Sandy Marks. Let's hear for Rhonda Hanson. And to play us out once again, let's hear it for our friend Jeff Kronberg to play us out of Tale.
Last song we'll do it. This one is about a first kiss. Here we go. I held you close to me, close as can be, babe. Your skin gave me chills. The air was filled with love and the sound of power drills. Our lips, they inched closer and closer. Some guy nearby was buying a toaster. You'll have my heart for the rest of our years. But sometimes I wish that our first kiss wasn't in Sears. Thanks, everybody.
All right, and thanks a lot for coming down to Tale. Good night, everyone.
Tale, lost soul, tale.